Next time you're sitting back in your armchair watching a movie, thinking how lucky the actors are to be making millions, spare a thought for those who have been injured in the process of making it. There are plenty. Their stories all make for interesting tales, but take it from me, many deserve every cent they earn. Here are 10 most dangerous movie scenes ever recorded. Number 10, Gothika. Halle Berry has a pretty serious history of injuring herself on set. One of her most notable and quite possibly worst bumps came during a scene with Robert Downey Jr. on the set of Matthew Kassovitz' 2003 crime film, Gothika. During a scene in what was supposed to be an interrogation sequence, Downey Jr.'s action was to grab Berry's arm and twist ever so slightly. Unfortunately, he twisted a little too hard and in that moment, snapped her arm. This is easily her most horrific injury, and as a result of it, Kassovitz and his crew had to postpone shooting for up to 8 weeks until Berry was fit and ready again. Robert Downey Jr. apologized profusely for the accident. However, Berry wasn't too quick to forgive, in fact. She was said to have been pretty annoyed that she lost 8 weeks of work because of him, and that she goes to great lengths to avoid him nowadays. Though Downey Jr. was sorry, Berry obviously feels he wasn't sorry enough. Number 9, Castaway. The 2000 film Castaway is a pretty interesting depiction of how a man goes through living alone on a deserted island. Robert Zemeckis cast Tom Hanks as his main protagonist, Chuck Nolan, who washes up on an island in the Pacific following a plane crash. For a real person, this would be an incredibly dangerous experience as you would be fighting every day to survive. Little did Tom Hanks realize that his experience on the set of such a film could be so disastrously similar. Hanks very nearly died on the set of Castaway. It was a grueling daily regime and tough on his body. Over the course of filming, he had to gain and then lose 50 pounds to accurately portray his character. This took a massive and physical toll on Hanks, like it would anyone gaining and losing weight so quickly. Following this, he accidentally cut his leg during filming. Initially, he thought nothing of it, and neither did the crew. However, after 2 weeks, it began swelling up, and Hanks was forced to see a medical professional. He was soon after diagnosed with a life-threatening staph infection. Fortunately, they got onto treatment quickly. Otherwise, this set could have been his last, an outcome too awful to even think about. Number 8, the set of Thor: The Dark World. Jamie Alexander, who plays Sif in Alan Taylor's 2013 film, Thor: The Dark World, fell victim to unfortunate circumstances during her time on set. We all know the universal truth by now that all modern superhero films come with plenty of stunts and high-intensity action. But with such action comes a great need for caution on set. By today's standards, everything is usually done with the utmost care and protection for actors and crew alike. However, in Alexander's case, the on-set stunts seem to have been less protected than usual and took an obvious toll on her body. She hasn't publicly said which scenes caused her issues, but she did describe in great detail what she struggled with. Quote, "I herniated a disc in my thoracic spine, dislocated my left shoulder, tore my right rhomboid, and chipped 11 vertebrae. The next morning, I got in a car to go to the hospital, and I sat in the car and compressed my spine a little bit, and went paralyzed in my right leg and my right hand. So I was in the hospital for a week." End quote. Wow, that's a lot of injuries for one movie. No wonder they get paid the big bucks. Number 7, Princess Bride. It's no secret that practical sets can be incredibly dangerous, and Rob Reiner's Princess Bride is certainly no exception, with Reiner pushing for sword-fighting sequences that didn't use computer-generated imagery or even stunt doubles. So, upon watching the famous sword-fighting sequence between Mandy Patinkin and Carrie Ellis, it's crazy to think it's completely practical, as Reiner wanted to capture some serious close-up shots. 30 years later, it still really holds up. However, it must be stressed just how difficult it was to put together. The pair worked for many hours to perfect this sequence, and with this practice, they were able to complete the sequence at such a rapid pace that even Reiner thought it was a little too fast. Reiner helped the pair to learn to fight with both hands, which brought more fluidity to the sequence. With such rapid pace, it was inevitable that there would be an injury, and it came in the form of Cary Elwes breaking his toe during fencing. Pretty minor, really, if you think about it. He was a trooper through it all and continued working through the pain in what was a very strenuous last few days of shooting. Number 6, Seven. Leland Orser took his character and acting preparations to intriguing new heights during his brief appearance on the set of Seven. His scene took place in an interrogation room and was meant to be overly traumatic. To match such a tone, Orser spent time breathing in and out rapidly. This saturated his oxygen intake, allowing him to hyperventilate during his scene. As an added tactic, he also didn't sleep in the days leading up to his performance. In the end, he matched the look of a disoriented and disturbed character. This may not be the most dangerous thing on this list, but it's insane to think of the lengths that performers go to achieve an intended look. It may not have been explosive, it may not have been a car crash, but it was admirable, especially considering it wasn't even a main role for Orser. He's clearly a very dedicated actor. Number 5. Titanic. Titanic is a memorable film for sure, and Kate Winslet's performance holds plenty of iconic moments that viewers and critics will remember forever. But I bet you didn't know that a certain sequence of events came mere moments away from ending her life during filming. It's a fairly iconic scene where Winslet and her on-screen partner, Leonardo DiCaprio, are running down a narrow hall before a massive wave of water crashes over them and pushes them against a locked gate. At the time of filming, Winslet's coat got caught on the gate and kept her underwater for a lengthy enough period to cause concern amongst the crew. Upon untangling herself and rising to the surface, Winslet was initially very traumatized by the whole ordeal. However, director James Cameron had very little sympathy and shuffled her on to her next take. A near-death experience ruined one of Cameron's takes, and it's no surprise that he wasn't happy about it. Although he should be counting his blessings. He didn't have a death on his hands. Sounds like he easily could have. Number 4. Steamboat Bill Jr. Buster Keaton is a massive pioneer in stunt work for modern-day filmmakers, as he has influenced the works of Mel Brooks and even Jackie Chan. Buster Keaton has taught many over the years that our beloved black and white films from the earlier 1900s aren't always a cheesy experience. This is a memorable scene in particular of his where he is stood still in front of a prop house that inadvertently falls towards him and crashes into pieces. The gag, of course, being that he is standing completely still and in perfect position where he goes through the window, rather than being crushed. What you didn't probably know is that these sets weighed almost 2 tons, and if he had moved even an inch, he would have perished from the weight of the structure. Many followers and actors inspired by Keaton would dub him as the original badass in terms of stunts, as he is arguably the greatest of the early Hollywood legends. In fact, he pioneered stunt work and converted it into an art form for others to follow over the course of the millennium. Number 3. Troy. Troy is such a popular and resounding mythical tale that has been covered many different times throughout history. So it's not surprising that Hollywood had a crack at bringing it to the big screen. During its shooting in 2004, museum curator Leslie Fenton was lucky enough to spend some time on the set, and she had many amazing and intriguing things to say about the film, its crew, actors, and overall production techniques. Though she never really got to experience any fighting scenes, she managed to get a look at some of the props they used, and some of these included rather dangerous-looking weaponry and other gruesome items. The prop store's shelves were stacked with items like realistic severed heads, impaled bodies, and damaged limbs. Along with those were weapons such as shields, swords, and spears. Much like Princess Bride, Troy had many fight scenes, all of which were heavily rehearsed and choreographed. With so many dangerous weapons, it's a wonder no one was injured during production. That fact is a real testament to the level of teaching that went into the fight scenes and just how quickly the actors picked it up. Number 2. Syriana. Like most films on this list, it seems certain that behind-the-scenes adventures are just as fascinating, if not more so, than what is eventually depicted on the screen. In this case, it was very unfortunate for Oscar winner George Clooney, who almost made his final appearance ever due to a rather horrific on-set incident during the filming of the 2005 film Syriana. During the film's infamous torture sequence, a stunt went very wrong for Clooney, who subsequently cracked his skull open. Following the consultation from his friend Lisa Kudrow's neurologist brother, he had to deal with the fact he had 2.5-inch rip in the middle of his back, a 1/2-inch tear in his neck, and was leaking spinal fluid. The condition was far worse than anyone could have imagined, and it also led to a very long and painful recovery for the film star. 15 days of pain, internal bleeding, and painkiller allergies later, Clooney was on the other side of recovery. However, he has stated multiple times that this incident has changed him forever. Little wonder given the seriousness of just one of these injuries, not to mention 3. Number 1. Drunken Master 1978. Much like the iconic Buster Keaton, Jackie Chan is also well known for his willingness to put his body on the line in order to obtain a quality shot or stunt. Chan has never needed a stunt double and will happily do all of his stunts under the right circumstances. With such actions, however, it's safe to say that Chan hasn't come away from every experience unscathed. Some of his injuries include third-degree burns to his hands, dislocated pelvis, and near paralysis on the set of Police Story. While also on the set of Armor of God, he attempted a wall jump to a tree branch, which he miscalculated and fell almost 15 feet to the ground. On impact, he hit a rock and cracked his skull. This stunt was the closest he came to death and has resulted in hearing loss in his right ear and a permanent plug which fills a hole left in his skull. Sounds ghastly to me. Another incredibly concerning incident happened on the set of the 1978 film Drunken Master, where Chan injured a brow ridge and very nearly lost an eye as a result. It's fair to say that Jackie Chan has given his mind, body, and soul to the industry, and he'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Crazy? We think so. So that's it for our list of 10 most dangerous movie scenes ever recorded. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and check out our other videos for more amazing lists. You've been watching Top Quick Peek. We'll see you next time.